Captain Lee Deho pressed his palm against the cold metal wall of the USS Blackstar's bridge, feeling the gentle vibration of the massive ship's engines humming beneath his feet. Through the enormous viewport that stretched across the front of the bridge, countless stars sparkled like diamonds scattered across black velvet. He had been staring at this same view for weeks now, but it never got old. Out here in the deep void between star systems, space felt infinite and peaceful. The Black Star was unlike any ship humanity had ever built before, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its sleek black hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making the vessel almost invisible against the darkness of space. Hidden beneath that dark armor were weapons that Earth's scientists had spent decades perfecting. Though none of them had ever been fired in anger, the ship carried experimental particle cannons, gravity torpedoes, and something called a quantum cascade device that even Deho didn't fully understand. The engineers who built it just smiled mysteriously whenever he asked about its true capabilities. Captain, morning coffee as requested. Lieutenant Junji Hai, his personal aide, approached with a steaming mug. She was young, barely 25, but had already proven herself invaluable during their long patrol missions. Thank you. Ji-Hai. Deho accepted the coffee gratefully. Any word from Earth Command this morning? The usual reports. Sir, trade negotiations with the Centauri Alliance. Some minor border disputes near the Rim worlds. Nothing requiring our attention. Deho nodded and took a sip of his coffee. That was how humanity preferred things these days. Earth had developed incredible technology over the past century, but they used it for exploration and peaceful expansion rather than conquest, while other species fought wars across the galaxy. Humans quietly built colonies on distant worlds and pushed ever deeper into unexplored space. The bridge around him buzzed with quiet activity. Commander Park Somi stood at the tactical station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays as she ran diagnostic checks on the weapon systems. She was brilliant, having graduated top of her class from the Naval Academy, and Deho trusted her completely in combat situations. Not that they had seen much combat during their 3-year patrol of the Outer Rim dot at the engineering station. Lieutenant Kim Woojin frowned at a series of readouts, occasionally muttering to himself in technical jargon that made Deho's head spin. Kim was a genius with starship systems, able to coax performance from the engines that shouldn't have been possible according to the design specifications. His modifications had helped the Black Star break several speed records during their shakedown cruise. Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from Galactic Communications Relay Station 14, announced Communications Officer Choi Minho from his position near the back of the bridge. He was older than most of the crew, having served on merchant vessels before joining the military, and his experience with alien communication protocols had proven invaluable. On screen, Deho ordered, settling into his captain's chair. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the weathered face of an elderly alien with blue-tinged skin and large, sorrowful eyes. Deho recognized him as Ambassador Kethril of the Galactic Council, an organization that tried to maintain peace between the various species scattered across this section of the galaxy. Captain Deho, I hope this message finds you well. The ambassador began, his voice carrying the weight of exhaustion. I'm afraid I must once again request Earth's assistance in dealing with the Zephyrian Empire. Their expansion continues unchecked. In the past month alone, they have conquered the Altair system and enslaved the entire vegan population. Their war machine grows stronger with each victory. Deho set down his coffee cup, his jaw tightening. For 3 years, the Galactic Council had been sending similar pleas for help. The Zephyrian Empire, a collection of reptilian species united under a single brutal ruler, had been systematically conquering star system after star system. They didn't just defeat their enemies. They enslaved entire populations and stripped worlds of their resources. Billions of sentient beings had died or been forced into bondage. The Council has authorized me to offer Earth significant trade concessions and technology-sharing agreements in exchange for military assistance. The ambassador continued. We know your people prefer peace, but the Zephyrians will not stop. Until they control this entire galactic arm, eventually, they will come for Earth's colonies as well. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. Everyone knew Earth's official policy. Humanity would not involve itself in galactic conflicts. They had seen too many species destroy themselves through endless warfare, and Earth's leaders had decided their people would follow a different path. Same response as always. Asked Choi Min-ho quietly. Dae-ho was about to nod when alarm klaxons suddenly blared throughout. The ship, red warning lights bathed the bridge in crimson as emergency signals flashed across every screen. Captain, we're receiving emergency transmissions, Choi Min-ho called out. His voice tight with tension. New Seoul Colony is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're under attack. The main screen shifted to show a chaotic scene through crackling static and interference. They could see the New Seoul orbital platform burning against the starfield. Small ships, probably civilian evacuation craft, scattered in all directions like frightened insects. And moving among them with predatory grace were the distinctive green-hulled vessels of the Zephyr. An Imperial Navy, multiple enemy warships, detected. Commander Park Somi reported from a tactical station, her voice deadly calm despite the situation. I count at least 12 heavy cruisers and twice as many escort vessels. They're systematically destroying anything that moves. Dae-ho watched in horror as a Zephyrian ship fired on an obviously civilian transport. The small craft exploded in a ball of flame, taking with it families who had probably been trying to escape to safety. His hands clenched into fists as rage built in his chest. New Seoul is broadcasting on emergency channels. Choi Min-ho continued. They're requesting immediate assistance from any Earth vessel in the area. Captain, we're the only ship close enough to respond. For a moment, Dae-ho felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders like a physical burden. Its official policy was clear. But watching innocent people die, while he had the power to save them, went against everything he believed in as a human being. Estimated time to New Seoul at maximum speed. He asked Lieutenant Kim Woo-jin, 37 minutes if I push the quantum drives beyond safety parameters. The engineer replied without hesitation. Dae-ho stood up from his captain's chair. Decision made. Earth might prefer neutrality, but he couldn't stand by and watch humans die when he had the most advanced warship in the galaxy at his command. Set course for New Seoul immediately. Maximum speed, he ordered, his voice carrying the authority of absolute command. Sir, what about our orders to maintain neutrality? Commander Park Sumi asked quietly. Dae-ho turned to look at her, and she saw something dangerous burning in his eyes. Those are humans dying out there. Commander, our people. Neutrality ends when family is threatened. The USS Blackstar's massive quantum drives roared to life, with a sound like controlled thunder, propelling the ship toward what would become humanity's first real taste of galactic war, unknown to the crew. They were about to unleash weapons that would change the balance of power across the entire galaxy. The USS Blackstar tore through the fabric of space as its quantum drives pushed beyond all safety limits. Captain Lee Dae-ho gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered from the strain, while Lieutenant Kim Woo-jin's hands flew across his engineering console, keeping the massive engines from overloading. Dropping out of hyperspace in 10 seconds, announced Navigator Lee Soo-jin, her voice tight with concentration. All stations, prepare for a normal space transition. The main view screen flickered as reality reasserted itself around them, and what they saw made several whole crew members gasp in shock. New Sol's 3 orbital stations, which had been beautiful silver rings circling the planet just days ago, now burned like dying stars against the black of space. Twisted metal debris floated everywhere, the remains of cargo ships, passenger liners, and defense platforms that had tried to protect the colony. But the worst sight was the Zephyrian fleet itself. 12 massive warships hung in space like predatory sharks, their dark green hulls gleaming with an oily sheen under the system's pale sun. They moved with deliberate cruelty, hunting down the small evacuation pods that were desperately trying to escape the carnage. Deho watched in horror as one of the alien ships fired its main cannon at a tiny civilian transport, vaporizing it in a flash of emerald light. "My God," whispered Commander Park Sumi from her tactical station. "They're not even trying to capture prisoners, they're just killing everyone." Lieutenant Choi Minho's face went pale as he monitored the emergency broadcasts flooding the communication channels. "Captain, I'm picking up hundreds of distress calls, families trapped on the orbital stations, children separated from their parents, people floating in damaged life pods with failing life support." Deho felt rage building in his chest like a furnace. These weren't military targets the Zephyrians were destroying. These were innocent civilians. Farmers and teachers and shopkeepers who had come to Nuso looking for a better life among the stars. They had never hurt anyone, never threatened the Empire. But now they were dying simply because they were human. "Sir, the lead Zephyrian vessel is hitting us," Choi Minho reported, his voice barely controlled. "Put them on screen," Deho ordered, standing up from his captain's chair. The main view screen shifted to show the bridge of the alien flagship. The creature that appeared made several whole crew members step back in instinctive fear. It was clearly reptilian, standing nearly 3 meters tall with scales that shifted between dark green and black. Its face was a nightmare of ceremonial scars that formed intricate patterns across its snout and forehead, while its eyes glowed with a cold yellow light that seemed to pierce right through the screen. "Prim eyed of humans," the creature spoke in perfect English, though its voice carried a hissing quality that made the words sound like threats. "I'm War Commander Zeta of the Imperial Fifth Fleet. Your pathetic little colony now belongs to the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your vessel immediately and submit to Imperial justice, or you will join the dead floating round this system, behind the War Commander." Deho could see other Zephyrian warriors moving about their bridge. They were all heavily muscled and covered in similar scar patterns, their clawed hands resting casually on energy weapons that looked capable of cutting a human in half. Their technology was clearly advanced, with holographic displays showing tactical information and what looked like detailed scans of human physiology. "Your species amuses us," Zeta continued, showing rows of razor-sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. "So weak, so fragile. We have studied your people for years, waiting for the right moment to add your worlds to our empire. Your Earth will burn just as beautifully as this pathetic colony." Commander Park Sumi's hands were already moving across her weapons console, and Deho could see the targeting displays coming online. The Blackstar's experimental weapon systems had never been used in actual combat, but watching innocent humans die while this monster gloated was more than any decent person could bear. "Captain," Sumi said quietly, "all weapons systems are armed and ready. Targeting computers have locks on their entire fleet." Deho looked back at the screen where War Commander Zeta was still speaking, describing in graphic detail what the Empire planned to do with human prisoners. The alien seemed to take genuine pleasure in causing fear and pain. Deho realized that trying to negotiate with creatures like this would be pointless. They understood only strength. "War Commander Zeta," Deho said, his voice carrying deadly calm. Let me explain something about humans that your intelligence reports apparently missed. We don't like bullies, the reptilian creatures eyes knowed. You dare threaten the Imperial fleet, your single ship against 12 of our finest warships. You are either very brave or very stupid. Human. Maybe both. Deho replied, then turned to his tactical officer. Commander Park, show them what happens when you threaten human civilians. Fire all weapons. The USS Blackstar's experimental weapon systems came online with a sound like controlled thunder. Deep within the ship's armored hull, particle accelerators the size of subway trains began spinning up to incredible speeds, while gravity manipulation devices that bent space itself charged to full power. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as energy readings climbed beyond anything the crew had seen during their training exercises. Particle cannons at full charge, Somi reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to unleash. Gravity torpedo tubes loaded and ready. Target locks confirmed on all enemy vessels. Fire. Deho ordered. What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The Blackstar's particle cannons fired beams of pure energy that were invisible to most sensors but carried the destructive power of miniature stars. The first beam struck the Zephyrian flagship dead center, and War Commander Zikta face disappeared from the screen as his ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a massive warship bristling with weapons, and the next moment there was only empty space and a few scattered atoms. The second Zephyrian cruiser tried to turn and flee, its engines glowing as the pilot pushed them to maximum power. But Commander Park Somi was already ahead of them, firing one of the Blackstar's gravity torpedoes. The weapon created a localized gravity well that pulled the enemy ship back on itself, crushing the kilometer-long vessel into a sphere of twisted metal no bigger than a basketball. Multiple enemy ships attempting to retreat, Somi reported calmly, as if discussing the weather rather than the systematic destruction of an entire fleet. Shall I pursue? Negative. Let them all burn where they sit. Deho replied, watching as the remaining Zephyrian vessels tried desperately to escape the range of the human weapons. But there was no escape. The Blackstar's experimental armaments reached across space with the inevitability of natural law. Energy beams that could slice through planetary crust, carved through alien armor like it was tissue power. Gravity weapons twisted enemy ships into impossible shapes before tearing them apart at the molecular level. In less than 3 minutes, what had been a proud Imperial fleet became nothing more than debris and radiation signatures. Only one small scout ship managed to escape, its pilot having the wisdom to flee the moment the flagship vanished. Deho could have ordered it destroyed as well, but he chose to let it go. Someone needed to carry word back to the Empire about what had just happened here. All enemy vessels destroyed, Commander Park Somi reported, though her voice carried a note of awe. Captain, our weapons performed far beyond design specifications. I've never seen anything like this. Deho looked out at the space where the Zephyrian fleet had been just moments before. Now there was only silence and the slowly fading glow of scattered particles for the first time in 3 years of galactic conflict. Someone had struck back at the Empire with overwhelming force. Begin search and rescue operations immediately. He ordered any human survivors in this system get priority medical attention and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the war has found us whether we wanted it or not. The news traveled faster than light across Zephyrian space, carried by the terrified scout ship that had escaped the massacre at New Sol. Within hours, every military commander, every planetary governor, and every intelligence officer in the Empire knew the impossible truth. A single human warship had destroyed an entire Imperial fleet in less than 3 minutes on the throne world of Zeph Prime. Emperor Zilta paced back and forth in his war room, his massive claws leaving gouges in the polished stone floor. The Emperor stood 4 meters tall, his scales a deep crimson that marked him as royalty among his species. Ceremonial scars covered his entire body, each one representing a world he had personally conquered during his rise to power. "Show me the battle footage again," he commanded, his voice a rumbling growl that made his advisors step back in fear. The holographic display activated, showing the grainy sensor recordings from the scout ship. They watched as the human vessel, a sleek black shape against the stars, appeared as if from nowhere. Then came the weapon's fire, beams of energy that their sensors could barely detect, followed by the complete annihilation of War Commander Zitras. "Flagship, impossible," whispered Fleet Admiral Gothic, the Emperor's chief military advisor. "No single ship should possess such firepower. Our intelligence reports said the humans were peaceful explorers, barely capable of defending their own colonies." Emperor Zilta's yellow eyes blazed with rage. "Our intelligence was wrong. This human vessel represents a threat to the very existence of our empire. If they possess one ship with such capabilities, they may have others." The Emperor turned to address the assembled War Council. "I am declaring the human vessel USS Blackstar to be an existential threat to Imperial security. I want 3 full battle fleets mobilized immediately. Every available ship, every weapon, every warrior. This single Earth vessel must be found and destroyed before it can threaten our core worlds." Meanwhile, aboard the USS Blackstar, Captain Lee Deho sat in his private ready room, studying intelligence reports that painted a grim picture of what was coming. The room was small but comfortable, with a single viewport showing the stars drifting past. On his desk lay dozens of data tablets containing intercepts from Zephyrian military communications. Commander Park Somi entered the room, followed closely by Lieutenant Kim Woo-jin. Both officers looked tired but determined. The past week had been spent rescuing survivors from Nuso and trying to understand the full scope of what they had unleashed. "Sir, our deep space sensor rays are picking up massive fleet movements throughout Zephyrian space," Somi reported, settling into one of the chairs across from her captain. "They're pulling ships from garrison duties, border patrols, even their core defense fleets. We estimate over 200 vessels are being mobilized." Kim Woo-jin activated a holographic display above the desk, showing a 3-dimensional map of the local galactic arm. Red dots marked Zephyrian fleet positions, and there were far too many of them. "The good news is our weapons performed beyond all expectations at New Seoul. Our particle cannons alone generated more destructive force than anything in their arsenal. The bad news is they know we exist now, and they're treating us like a plague that needs to be eradicated." Daeho leaned back in his chair, processing the information. 3 battle fleets meant the Empire was taking the Blackstar seriously as a threat. That was both encouraging and terrifying. Encouraging because it meant their demonstration of force had worked, terrifying because they were now the most hunted ship in the galaxy. "What about Earth Command?" he asked. Any response to our situation report? Somi's expression darkened. "Admiral Chen's office sent a coded message yesterday. Earth is officially maintaining its neutrality policy. We're ordered to avoid further contact with Zephyrian forces and return to patrol duties in the Outer Rim. They want us to run away," Kim Woo-jin said, his engineering mind already working through the tactical implications. "Captain, with respect to Earth Command, I don't think that's possible anymore. The Zephyrians have tasted our capabilities, and they won't stop hunting us until we're space dust." Daeho stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, hundreds of enemy ships were converging on their position. carrying weapons capable of turning planets into rubble. The smart move would be to flee to the edge of known space and hide until the political situation changed. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw the burning evacuation pods at New Seoul. He heard the desperate radio calls from families trapped on the orbital stations. He remembered the casual cruelty in War Commander Zeta's voice as the alien described what the Empire planned to do to humanity. "Sir, there's something else," Somi said quietly. "Intelligence intercepts suggest the Zephyrians have been planning to attack Earth's outer colonies for months. New Seoul might not have been random. They may have been testing our defenses, seeing how we would respond. That changed everything. If the Empire was already planning to attack human worlds, then the Blackstar's intervention at New Seoul had simply accelerated their timeline. Running away wouldn't save anyone. It would just give the aliens more time to prepare for their invasion of human space. Show me their fleet deployment patterns," Daeho ordered. Returning to his desk, the holographic display shifted to show Zephyrian ship movements over the past week. 3 distinct formations were taking shape, each centered around a massive dreadnought that served as the flagship. The formations were moving to box in the Blackstar's last known position, planning to trap the human ship between overlapping fields of fire. "Classic hunter-killer formation," Kim Woo-jin observed. "They're treating us like a wounded animal that needs to be cornered and finished off." Daeho studied the tactical display for several minutes, his mind working through possibilities. The Zephyrians expected him to run. They expected him to hide in some remote star system until they could track him down. They were deploying their forces based on the assumption that humans would act defensively, trying to preserve their single advanced warship. But what if he didn't run? What if instead of being the hunted, he became the hunter? "Commander Park, what's our current weapon status?" he asked. "All systems operating at peak efficiency. Sir, we've got full loads of gravity torpedoes. And the particle cannons are ready for extended combat operations, Lieutenant Kim's modifications. To our power, systems mean we can fire continuously for hours without overheating, and our stealth capabilities." Kim Woo-jin smiled for the first time in days. "Sir, I've been working on some improvements to our cloaking systems based on what we learned at New Seoul. The Zephyrian sensors couldn't track our weapons' fire, which means they're using different detection methods than we expected. I think I can make us nearly invisible to their tracking systems." Daeho looked at both officers, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his own heart. They were tired of running, tired of being reactive. The Empire had declared war on humanity the moment they started slaughtering civilians. At New Seoul, it was time to show them what that declaration really meant. "Then we don't give them time to coordinate their attack," he said, his voice carrying the weight of command decision. "We strike first. We strike hard, and we make them regret starting this war." Somi leaned forward, interest sparkling in her eyes. "What did you have in mind, Captain?" "They're hunting us with 3 separate fleets, expecting us to run until they can corner us," Daeho explained, pointing to the tactical display. "But what if we turn it around? What if we hunt them instead?" Kim Woo-jin's engineering mind immediately grasped the implications. Hit and run attacks on their individual fleets before they can combine forces. Use our superior speed and stealth to pick them apart piece by piece. Exactly. They want to paint us as a threat to imperial security. Let's give them something to really worry about. The hunt was about to begin. But the Zephyrians would soon learn they were not the hunters. They were the prey, and humanity had just revealed that it possessed the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. The USS Blackstar drifted silently through the Rigel Nebula, its black hull invisible against the swirling clouds of cosmic gas sand. Stardust, 6 months had passed since the massacre at New Sol, and the sleek human warship had become something far more terrifying than the Zephyr Empire had ever imagined possible. What they thought would be a simple hunt for a single rogue vessel had turned into their worst nightmare. Captain Deho stood on the bridge, studying holographic displays that showed the latest intelligence reports. His crew had changed. During these months of constant warfare, they moved with the quiet confidence of veterans now, their eyes holding the hard edge that came from seeing too much death and destruction. But they had also discovered something about themselves that surprised everyone, including Deho. They were very good at war. Captain, we're receiving encrypted transmissions from Zephyr Command, reported Communications Officer Choi Min-ho, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Want to hear what they're saying about us? Put it on the main screen. Deho ordered. The view screen flickered to show intercepted Zephyr military communications. The reptilian faces that appeared looked nothing like the arrogant warriors they had faced at New Sol. These aliens were scared, their yellow eyes darting nervously as they spoke in hushed, fearful tones. The ghost ship struck again last night. One commander reported to his superior, Admiral Kexran's entire supply convoy, 37 vessels, completely destroyed. No survivors, no witnesses. Just debris and that cursed human energy signature. Another transmission showed a different Zephyrian officer, this one with fresh scars across his face that looked suspiciously like battle damage. General, I'm requesting immediate transfer from the Vega sector. My ships refuse to patrol there anymore. The crews are calling it cursed space. They say the human demon appears from nowhere, strikes without warning, then vanishes like it was never there. Commander Park Somi chuckled softly from her tactical station. Demon ship, I kind. I've like that. Lieutenant Kim Woo-jin looked up from his engineering console, where he was fine-tuning their latest modifications. Sir, our stealth systems are working even better than I hoped. Their sensors can't track us when we're moving through nebulae or asteroid fields. We've become invisible to them, and they had. Kim's genius-level modifications to the Blackstar's cloaking technology had transformed the ship into something that existed more in Zephyrian nightmares than in reality. They could appear anywhere, strike with devastating force, and disappear before enemy reinforcements could respond. The quantum tunneling drives allowed them to literally step through space itself, emerging inside enemy formations before anyone knew they were there. The Battle of Kepler Station had been their masterpiece of tactical warfare. Intelligence reports had indicated a full Zephyrian battle group was massing there, 30 ships preparing to join the hunt for the Blackstar, instead of avoiding the heavily defended position. Deho had decided to make a statement. Remember, Kepler, Somi. He asked his tactical officer. Park Somi's eyes lit up with the memory. How could I forget? 30 enemy ships in perfect formation, thinking they were safe because of their numbers. We quantum jumped right into the middle of them before their sensors even knew we were in the system. The battle had lasted exactly 8 minutes. The Blackstar had materialized inside the Zephyrian formation like a nightmare made real. Its particle cannons already charged and ready. Somi had coordinated the attack with surgical precision, targeting the enemy command ships first to disrupt their communications, then systematically working through their escorts and support vessels. Half their fleet was space. Just before they even got their shields up, added Navigator Lee Soo-jin, who had been at the helm during the engagement. The other half tried to run, but our gravity torpedoes caught them before they could jump to hyperspace. The survivors of that battle had spread stories throughout Zephyrian space that grew more terrifying. Gee, with each telling, they spoke of a ship that moved like a living thing, that seemed to anticipate their every move, that struck with the fury of an angry god. Some claimed the vessel was crewed by the spirits of everyone the Empire had killed. Come back for revenge. But it wasn't ghosts or demons that made the Blackstar so effective. It was human ingenuity, determination, and a burning desire for justice that had transformed a single warship into the most feared vessel in the galaxy. Lieutenant Yunji approached the captain with the latest casualty reports. Sir, intelligence. Estimates suggest we've destroyed over 150 enemy vessels in the past 6 months, 7 major military bases, dozens of supply convoys, and at least 3 command centers. The numbers were staggering, but they represented more than just military victories. Each destroyed base had been a staging point for attacks on innocent worlds. Each convoy had been carrying weapons and supplies to support the Empire's expansion. Each command center had been coordinating the enslavement of entire populations. Captain. Incoming priority transmission from the outer sensor net. Choi Min-ho announced. It's from the liberated worlds in the Centauri sector. The main screen shifted to show a collection of alien faces, representatives from species that had been freed when the Blackstar destroyed their Zephyrian occupiers. A blue-skinned female who appeared to be their spokesperson stepped forward. Captain Deho, on behalf of the Free Worlds Alliance, we want to thank you again for what you've done for our people, she said, her voice thick with emotion. The children of Altair Prime are learning to play in sunlight again because you drove away their oppressors. The survivors of Vega Colony are rebuilding their cities because you showed them that the Empire could be defeated. Other faces appeared on the screen, each representing worlds that had been touched by the Blackstar's campaign of liberation. They spoke of families reunited, of slave camps emptied, of hope restored to places where it had been lost for years. But we also bring warning. The spokesperson continued. Our intelligence networks report that Emperor Zilta is gathering his remaining forces for a final assault. Every ship still loyal to the Empire is being recalled to Zeph Prime. They're planning to make their last stand at their homeworld. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in thoughtful silence. Everyone knew this moment would come eventually. The Empire's scattered fleets were no match for the Blackstar in individual engagements, but concentrated round their capital world, they would represent the greatest challenge the human crew had yet faced. How many ships are we talking about? Deho asked his intelligence officer. Lieutenant Park Min-jun consulted his data tablets. Conservative estimates put it at over 300 vessels, sir, every remaining dreadnought, battle cruiser, and escort ship they can still field, plus their planetary defense systems, orbital weapons platforms, and whatever surprises they've been saving for a desperate situation. Kim Woo-jin whistled softly. That's a lot of firepower concentrated in one place. Even with our advantages, those aren't good odds. But Commander Park Somi was already studying tactical displays, her mind working through attack patterns and engagement scenarios. Maybe not. But we've proven that superior numbers don't guarantee victory. The Zephyrians still think like a traditional military force. They expect conventional tactics, straightforward battles, predictable strategies. And we've never been conventional. Deho added with a slight smile. The question is whether we're ready for the final confrontation. This will be different from hit-and-run attacks on isolated targets. This will be a direct assault. On the heart of their empire, the crew exchanged glances, seeing determination reflected in each other's eyes. They had come so far from that peaceful patrol mission 6 months ago. They had witnessed horrors that would stay with them forever. But they had also discovered something precious about humanity's place in the galaxy. They were not just explorers or diplomats. When pushed, when their people were threatened, humans could become the most dangerous predators in known space. Captain, Somi said quietly, we've spent 6 months showing the galaxy that the Empire can be defeated. Now it's time to prove that evil regimes eventually face justice, no matter how powerful they think they are. The hunt that had begun at New Seoul was almost over, but the final battle, the one that would determine the fate of countless worlds and species, still lay ahead at Zeph Prime. The USS Blackstar had become humanity's sword of justice, and soon that sword would strike at the very heart of tyranny itself. The USS Blackstar emerged from quantum space at the edge of the Zeph Prime system like a predator finally cornering its prey. Captain Lee Daeho stood on the bridge, his weathered hands gripping the command rail as he stared at the view screen in grim fascination. What he saw there was both terrifying and strangely beautiful in its deadly symmetry. Zeph Prime hung in space like a massive green jewel, its surface covered with the gleaming spires of the Empire's capital cities. But it was what? Surrounded, the planet that made even veteran crew members draw sharp breaths. Over 300 Zephyrian warships formed concentric defensive rings round their homeworld, their hulls glowing with the energy signatures of fully charged weapon systems. "Sweet Mother of Earth," whispered Navigator Lee Sujin, "I've never seen so many ships in one place." The formation was a masterpiece of military engineering. Massive dreadnoughts formed the outer ring, their kilometer-long hulls bristling with enough firepower to reduce moons to asteroid fields. Inside them, battle cruisers and heavy destroyers created overlapping fields of fire that would make any approach suicidal. And at the center, closest to the planet itself, swarms of escort vessels and fighter craft created a final defensive screen. Lieutenant Kim Woo-jin's engineering console lit up with warning displays as his sensors analyzed. "The enemy formation. Captain, I'm reading energy signatures I've never seen before. They've been saving some serious firepower for this fight." Commander Park Somi studied her tactical displays, her mind automatically calculating attack vectors and engagement ranges. "Sir, they've positioned themselves perfectly. No matter which direction we approach from, we'll be facing the concentrated fire of at least 50 ships simultaneously." As if summoned by their analysis, the main communications ray crackled to life. The view screen shifted to show the interior of what could only be the Imperial throne room on Zeph Prime. Emperor Zilta himself appeared, his massive crimson form seated on a throne carved from the bones of conquered worlds. Behind him stood dozens of his highest-ranking military commanders, their scarred faces showing a mixture of fear and desperate determination. "Human Captain." The Emperor's voice rumbled across space like distant thunder. "You have proven yourself to be a worthy adversary. In another time, under different circumstances, I might have offered you a place in my empire. But you have cost me too much. Destroyed too many of my ships, freed too many of my subjects." The alien ruler leaned forward, his yellow eyes blazing with hatred. "Today, the human devils end here. Surrender now, and I promise your crew will die quickly. Continue this futile resistance, and I will personally ensure that every human world burns until your entire species is nothing but a memory." Communications Officer Choi Min-ho looked to his captain for instructions. Round the bridge, the crew waited in tense silence for Daeho's response. "Open a channel," Daeho ordered, his voice calm despite the odds they faced. The view screen split to show both the Emperor's throne room and the Blackstar's bridge. Daeho stepped forward, his uniform bearing the scars of 6 months of constant warfare, his face showing the weight of command decisions that had shaped the fate of entire worlds. "Emperor Zilta, let me explain something about humans that you've never understood," he said, his words carrying across the void to every ship in the system. "We don't surrender to bullies. We don't bow to tyrants. And we certainly don't let genocidal monsters threaten our families." The Emperor's face twisted with rage. "Then you will die with your pathetic defiance on your lips." The transmission cut out. replaced immediately by tactical displays showing the Zephyrian fleet beginning to move. The outer ring of dreadnoughts adjusted their positions, bringing their main guns to bear on the lone human vessel. Energy readings spiked across the formation as hundreds of weapon systems charged to full power. All hands, battle stations, Deo announced over the ship's intercom. This is what we've been preparing for. Today, we end the Empire's reign of terror once and for all. The first salvo from the Zephyrian fleet lit up space like an artificial sunrise. Hundreds of energy beams, plasma bolts, and missile launches converged on the Blackstar's position. But the human ship was already moving, its quantum drives pushing it into impossible maneuvers that shouldn't have been survivable for any living crew. Commander Park Somi's hands flew over her weapons console as she coordinated return fire. Particle cannons at maximum yield, targeting their command ships first. The Blackstar's experimental weapons responded with devastating effect. Invisible beams of pure energy reached across space to touch the Zephyrian vessels, and wherever they made contact, enemy ships simply ceased to exist. The first dreadnought vanished in a flash of converted matter, followed quickly by two as Somi's targeting systems locked onto their bridge sections. But there were too many of them. For every ship the Blackstar destroyed, 5 more moved. To take its place, the human vessel danced between incoming fire with impossible grace. But even Kim Woo-jin's engineering miracles couldn't make them invulnerable forever. Hull breach on Deck 7. Reported damage. Control Officer Han Ji-woo, her voice tight with stress. Emergency bulkheads are holding, but we're losing atmosphere in 3 compartments. More alarms sounded as enemy fire found its mark. The Blackstar's shields flared and sparked under the constant bombardment, while small explosions began appearing along the hull where armor plating couldn't absorb the energy impacts. "Captain, we're taking too much damage," Kim Woo-jin called out, his engineering station showing critical readings across multiple systems. Hull integrity is down to 60% and falling. At this rate, we won't last another 10 minutes. Daeho watched as another flight of enemy missiles streaked toward them. Knowing that his ship and crew had given everything they had to give, they had fought brilliantly, destroyed dozens of enemy vessels, but mathematics was against them. No single ship, no matter how advanced, could face the concentrated firepower of an entire empire and survive. But they had one weapon left, one final card to play that might end this war forever. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the intercom, his voice carrying to every corner of the ship. "Prepare for quantum cascade activation. Seal all compartments and brace for space-time distortion." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of charging systems. Every crew member knew what the quantum cascade device was capable of. They had seen the theoretical calculations, understood the risks. It was a weapon that could tear holes in reality itself, but using it at full power might destroy them as surely as it destroyed their enemies. Lieutenant Kim Woo-jin's hands moved over his console, bringing the ship's most dangerous system online. Quantum cascade device charging. "Captain, at this range and power level, I can't guarantee our survival." "I understand," Daeho replied quietly. "But sometimes the only way to end evil is to be willing to sacrifice everything to stop it." The Blackstar's hull began to vibrate as forces beyond normal physics built up within the ship's core. Space itself started to warp around them, bending light and distorting the images of distant stars. The Zephyrian fleet, sensing something wrong, increased their rate of fire, but their weapons seemed to bend away from the human vessel as reality itself became unstable. "Quantum cascade at full charge," Kim Woo-jin reported, his voice barely audible over the growing dimensional storm. "Sir, once I activate this, there's no stopping it." Daeho looked round his bridge one final time, seeing the faces of the crew, who had followed him through 6 months of impossible battles. They were afraid, but they were ready. They understood that some things were worth dying for. "Activate the cascade," he ordered. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Space Realm. The Blackstar tore open like fabric, creating expanding rifts in the fundamental structure of reality. The distortion spread outward in all directions, moving faster than light itself, catching the Zephyrian fleet in an embrace that erased them from existence. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for generations simply stopped being, not destroyed, not blown apart, but removed from reality as if they had never existed at all. The expanding cascade field consumed dreadnoughts and destroyers alike, wiping clean the space rounds F' until nothing remained but empty void and the slowly healing wounds in spacetime itself. When the cosmic storm finally subsided, silence filled the system. The USS Blackstar floated alone among the stars, its hull scarred but intact, its crew somehow having survived forces that should have torn them apart on the planet below. The populations of a dozen conquered species looked up at skies that were finally free of their oppressors' warships. Captain Lideho stood at his command station, hardly believing they had lived through the cascade activation. Round him, his crew slowly began to realize that they had not only survived, but achieved the impossible. The Zephyrian Empire, which had dominated this section of the galaxy for over a century, was finished. Open a channel to all frequencies. He ordered Communications Officer Choi Minho. "It's time to let the galaxy know what happened here." The transmission went out across hundreds of star systems, reaching every world that had ever lived under the Empire's shadow. Deho's voice carried hope to billions of beings who had almost forgotten what freedom felt like. "This is Captain Lee Deho of the USS Blackstar to all worlds formerly under Zephyrian occupation. The Empire's fleet has been destroyed. Their ability to wage war has ended. You are free. Humanity stands ready to help you rebuild and to ensure that no one ever again has to live in fear of tyrants like these." As the message spread across the galaxy, celebrations began on 1,000 worlds. The nightmare was over. Evil had been defeated not by superior numbers or advanced technology alone, but by the determination of beings who refused to let innocent people suffer while they had the power to stop it. The galaxy had finally learned why Earth had remained so quiet in the darkness between stars. Sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that waits, that watches, that chooses exactly the right moment to strike. And when that moment comes, nothing in the universe can stand against the fury of those who fight for justice. ***, the end ***.